Welcome back to Business Breakfast and Bedhead. I actually do these live calls on Instagram. I would love for you to come and hang out with me at them. So if you don't already follow me at Dawn Bradley, DAWNBRADLEY, should have made a song about that. Go follow me there because then you can take part in these live calls and can actually chat with me. But if you can't make them, no sweat. Now they're going to be here. So welcome to Business Breakfast and Bedhead. Buckle up, friend, and let's dive in. I overthink, I overshare, and I overanalyze. So come explore with me as I chat about business, life, and relationships, all through the lens of an anxious creative. Morning, and welcome to Business Breakfast and Bedhead. I'm your host, Dawn Bradley, and I'm so excited to talk about the fear of failing. I know that seems weird that I would be excited to talk about the fear of failing, but I hear this so often in entrepreneurs, service providers, hairstylists, and beauty pros, scared to do the next thing, and they're waiting for the fear to go away. And we're gonna bust the myth around fear and help you actually live with your fear and understand why it's there, how it helps you, and why it's important to have fear going on to your next goal. So I'm so excited to be here. First things first, if you haven't joined me live before, I go live weekday mornings around 8 and 9 a.m. I used to be really strict with the time that I went, and now I realize I can go with the flow. But the number one thing that I want to make sure that we set the ground rules at right at the beginning of this live is that this is a safe space and a judgment-free zone. We're all on different paths. We're all on different parts of our journeys. We're all learning things at different places in our lives. And so if you can put a 1 in the chat to make sure that you show me and everyone else in here that you're a safe person and that we're going to show up with kindness, compassion, and empathy as we all move through this, because the fear of failing is real. And go ahead and put a 2 in the chat if you've ever had the fear of failing. You've wanted to do the next thing, you've wanted to grow your business, you've wanted to make a move in your life or your relationships, and the fear of failing has felt too strong, and you're like, I will wait till this fear goes away and I feel fully confident, and then I will. Does that sound familiar? Because I know that feeling myself. So many times I have been like, well, when this all plans out, when everything clicks, and the reality is not everything's gonna fall into place. Opportunity does not present itself, you have to go chase it. Let me say that again. Opportunity does not present itself, you have to go chase it. Change it. And so whatever you're wanting to create, I remember, I don't even know if someone said that phrase to me, if it was my own phrase, but I remember in 2010 when I went out on my own and started my own business, and I had a 490 square foot space that there was no salon suites at the time, and I went into, and I was like, you know what, I'd always wanted to have my own business. It had always been too good to leave the salon that I was at. I had an amazing boss that always worked with me. I remember being like, I want to go to Australia for 6 weeks. And she's like, cool, let's make this work. I'm going to have an empty chair for 6 weeks. How can we make sure that I don't lose money for the business because I have to pay its bills? My boss educated me so well that I wanted to do, she scratched my back, I scratched hers. It was always too good to leave. She sold the business, someone else took over. It was run well. Hello from Morocco. It was run well, but it wasn't too good to leave anymore. So, oh my gosh, you guys. I have 3 drinks right beside me. I have a water, a smoothie, and a coffee. So I remember being like, well, when it all works out, when I feel ready, when I feel confident, when I have everything, and people always ask me like for a checklist of like, how do you start your own business? Can I have a checklist? And honestly, I think those things are great. I think it's good to be prepared. However, ask yourself, am I letting the fear of having all my shit together stop me from taking messy, immediate, imperfect action? If you want to be more confident, put a yes in the chat if you're like, confidence is something that I want more of. The way you build confidence, Brené Brown talks about this, she's like, confidence is born from courage and vulnerability. It's not something you wait to all of a sudden be possessed with, it's something you go and messily do. So confidently taking messy, immediate, imperfect action means being courageous and vulnerable in the actions you take, not the things you plan, not the things you learn, not the things you educate yourself on, that you take courageous, vulnerable, messy, immediate, imperfect action. So I want you to ask you today, that fear of failing, and if you're willing, I know we've said that this will be a safe space and a judgment-free zone this morning. If you're willing to share what one of your goals is for the next year in the chat, know that it's okay. I feel like sometimes people are scared to write down their goal because I'm like, well, if I say it out loud, and then what if I don't achieve it? Then the fear of failing, right? Goals are there to push you forward. You should set goals that seem out of reach. if you've ever taken track and field, I was not a track and field athlete, but I remember taking it in school. They always said, if you're running to the finish line, make sure you aim past the finish line. That way you'll finish going full speed. But if you're aiming for the finish line, you inadvertently, mentally will slow down as you come to the finish line. So aim beyond it. You want to set your goals beyond what you think is possible and beyond what you think you can achieve, so that you continue to push yourself beyond what you think you can do. And so if anybody wants to share what one of their big goals is to finish this year with, put it in the comments. I'm not gonna, it's a safe space and a judgment-free zone, but I wanna ask you, and if you wanna, I wanna keep this conversational. It's really be in my own salon. I love it. To open up my own salon storefront. I love this. These are great. I have a little bit of allergies, and that's why Sarah's in the house. I'm being all goofy with my nose, and I have this weird throat thing. So whatever the fear is that's holding you back, can you picture, people say, I have a fear of failing. And I'm like, what is the fear of failing? Because success is the path, or failure is the pathway to success. That's what it is. Success is paved with failures. I have failed and failed and failed and failed and failed again. And that's how I learn. That's how I've learned. That's how I've gotten better. So the fear of failing, is it a fear of failing, or is it a fear of being seen failing? Is it a fear of being embarrassed and humiliated? Is it a fear of being mocked and judged? I want you guys to go, and it's going to be different for all of us. It could be different. Is it a fear of being told you so? Is it generally for me, embarrassment is my number one motivator to do something or to not do something or to avoid it. I'm so scared of embarrassment. Embarrassment is a deeper, I think it's a generational trauma that's been passed down. Fear of embarrassment, humiliation, judgment, or what was the other one that I said? Embarrassment, humiliation, or judgment. And so once you start to admit to yourself whatever the fear actually is under the fear of failing, because you could fail. I could trip at home and not be embarrassed, but if I tripped out in public, I'd be embarrassed. It's other people seeing it. Fear of judgment, Cass says. Fear of people saying you can't do this. You're going to do it. You're doing it wrong. You won't be successful. Let's all just say, Creative Cass, you're doing a kick-ass job. I know you, but I understand, and I don't want to dismiss that, but I want to instill in the affirmation in you right now, Cass, that's legit feelings. Thank you for sharing that. I really, really appreciate your vulnerability this morning. And I know you're an amazing person and you have so much to offer and you're going to kick ass, and that fear is legit and that fear is valid. But I already know that you're already so successful because of the failures and scrapes and bumps and trip ups that you'll do along the way, because you'll graciously pick yourself up. And here's the thing is, so many times we get so afraid of failing that if we fail someone else, if we do something that hurts somebody else, or if we do something that disappoints somebody else, and maybe it's fear of embarrassment, humiliation, judgment, or disappointment, right? Maybe that's the 4. I would love someone to write that down, because I would love to keep that written down. I'm going to forget it by the end of this. Fear of failing, fear of what the success comes and looks like, right? What will you lose if you become successful, right? You've probably heard family members or friends be like, oh, must be nice for them to go on that vacation. Must be nice to buy that new car. And you've heard, and it's shame, right? It's fear of embarrassment. I'm writing this down. Judgment, humiliation, shame, or disappointment. I think those are covers quite a lot of them, isn't it? And that fear of success, of what could I lose by becoming successful, right? I've had family members be like, must be nice not to work, because I work at home most of the time, that they think I don't, and because I have flexible hours, I still have to work, but I can be flexible when I work, and they joke about it, but it's an insecurity of mine. Do people think I don't work? And because I used to be such a workaholic and my value was caught up in how much I did rather than how strategic I was, I would feel shame around making good money and working less hours. And so is there a fear of success where if I'm not pushing myself to the limit, if I'm not stressed out, if I'm not completely exhausted, then I'm somehow scamming people, right? And does it come from a place of you've cast judgment on someone else around the same thing? Is your fear around a judgment you've held, your fear of failing, or your fear of success, or your fear of embarrassment, fear of humiliation, fear of judgment, fear of shame, fear of disappointment, is it deep-seated in a judgment you've held towards someone else, if you're really honest with yourself? Ooh, that's so not the fun thing you want to hear this morning. I know that. Yes, I'm in this right now. Fear of not living up to my goals. Right, and so Lush Locks Hair Studio, isn't it funny when we look at this, and this is so common, and so thank you for sharing that. It's that we're so afraid of not living up to our goals that we won't even try to attempt them, because if we don't attempt them, then we can still live in the possibility that they could happen. But if we take action towards them, then the possibility of not achieving them is real. But if you let the fear control you, you will actually fail because you'll never actually try. And it's wild how our fear of failing actually brings us to the failure. But we convince ourselves it's not failure because we didn't even attempt it. But by not attempting, you're failing yourself. Jacqueline, hi. And so knowing that fear is that bit of your ego that's trying to protect yourself from whatever fear is: disappointment, shame, humiliation, embarrassment, judgment. And it's probably around something, and I mean, we're going to get all therapy-like, and I'm not a registered licensed therapist, so like, let's remember that, but I've taken a lot of therapy. It's probably around some moment, key moment in your life or in your childhood where you felt embarrassed, humiliated, shame, judgment, or that you disappointed someone. And that feeling in that moment was so uncomfortable that you made an unconscious commitment to your body that I never want to feel that way ever again. And if you can think, if this triggers a memory, or if this makes you feel a certain age right now, sit in that. And sit in that and sit with that version of yourself and be the adult that they needed at that time. Because the only way that to get past this, the only way to get through this, the only way to get past that fear, the only way to get comfortable with that fear existing, that fear is there to protect you. It's there to keep you safe. And so it has a really good purpose. But now it's no longer serving you. It served you at the time. It served you at a specific, maybe I remember the fear, like when I was sharing with you guys yesterday on my live, I handed out my first business card to try to get a new client. And she gave me the weirdest look, and I felt embarrassed. I tripped over my words, and she never booked in. And that feeling was so uncomfortable. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that again. But I pushed forward. I had to ask myself, how bad do I want the end result? And what am I willing to do for it? And so I want you to ask those questions to yourself. How bad do I want the end result? And what am I willing to do for it? And realizing that in the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, she talks about fear being present. We have to stop waiting. Fear is instinctual. It's a normal part of life. It's there to protect you and make you feel safe. So if it's allowed to be there, start to recognize it. Hey, fear, how's it going? Become friends with it, but set boundaries, being like, you don't get to make decisions. And Elizabeth Gilbert talks about fear coming along on the journey. Fear coming along the journey, meaning come on the road trip. It doesn't get to sit in the passenger seat. It does not get to touch the maps. It does not get to pick the radio station. It sits in the back with the duct tape on its mouth, right? Hi, beautiful. Good morning. I have a client who's a psychiatrist. She thinks I have ADHD. Now on the path to see if it's a true thing. Love that. All right, so whether it's building your clientele, whether it's getting out there and asking for new clients, maybe you have a fear of letting people know that you have availability in your schedule because you've always been booked solid, and all of a sudden you're in a stage where your clientele has switched, it's changed, or you've come back from mat leave, or you've come back from not doing your service for a while, or maybe you've moved to a new location, and you're like, well, if I have availability, maybe people will think I'm no good. How talented and skilled you are and how booked up you are do not correlate. There are people that are booked out months in advance that aren't as talented and skilled as you. And there are people who are way high talented and skilled and not booked out. They have nothing to do with each other. So stop getting in your own way, thinking that people are going to think, oh, business must not be good if they have openings. Yesterday I shared, you got to get excitement. The energy in which you share that you have availability, or the energy in which you invite someone to be a new client, is the energy they'll receive. So if you're going to be like, well, there's some openings this week, and like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed, people are going to feel that. Instead, switch the flip. Switch the flip? Flip the switch. There it is. And say, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe I have openings this weekend, this week. This is rare. This doesn't happen all the time. And I'm really excited because I know that maybe you're a last minute person. And the way I've been booking in the past was harder for you to get in because you didn't plan that far in advance. Well, good news for you. You're able to get in within the next couple weeks. Make it benefit them. Make it benefit them. I've been reading the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and one of the rules is, now I'm forgetting what it actually is, but it's about talk about how it benefits them, not how it benefits you. Yes, you need to fill your schedule to make money, and financial stability is important to you, but if you focus on what the need of your client is and how what you're offering benefits them and do it with excitement, game changer. This is why yesterday I announced I'm going to be doing a 3-part workshop on how to get new clients in your chair and having them come back repeatedly that creates financial stability for you. If that sounds like something that you'd be interested, put a 1 in the chat, because I haven't made it live yet for you to sign up, but I'm going to be announcing it very soon. A 3-part series. You'll have Q&A with me as well. A 3-part series on how to get new clients in the chair when you're a seasoned professional and to create financial stability without having to raise your prices, without having to do all the things that are kind of going there. And I know Textures and Curls, we chatted yesterday about it a little bit. It's going to be really, really exciting. I'm really excited for it. And I want you to start asking yourself, how much room do you have in your schedule right now? And maybe share in the comments right now, how many more clients could you accommodate per week? And if you kept it at your current prices, say I'm just going to use a round number because it's easier for me to do mental math. Say your haircut is $50 and you have space for 6 more haircuts this week. That's 6 hours of free time. At $50, that's an extra $300 a week. If this workshop, RYB, is worth every penny, thanks Danielle. If you were able to fully get booked on the hours you work without working more hours, but just filling your schedule, and it added up to $200 extra a week. Let's be really, really conservative. $200 extra a week. If the workshop won't do the work for you. Here's the thing. I don't want people coming to a workshop, buying any of my programs that aren't willing to do the work required. I don't care what you learn. I don't care what you know. I care what you do. And so I want motivated people who are willing to take courageous, vulnerable, messy, immediate, imperfect action. It's not about being confident before you do it. It's not about having your shit together before you do it. It's about willing to fail doing it and fail again and get back up and fail again and then maybe have a success and then maybe fail again and continue doing it until it becomes second nature. I'm ready for people who are motivated to be willing to get out of their own way and do the work required, even if it's simple, even if it's stuff that you know to do. Why aren't you doing it? And so if you're all ready to take courageous, vulnerable, messy, immediate, imperfect action, even if it scares you a little bit, then I want you to put a 1 in the chat and say that you're interested in coming to this 3-part workshop to rebuild your clientele with the perfect clients and create financial stability. I'll be announcing more of the information soon, but even if you're just interested, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat and I will connect with you. But it can't do the work for you. It won't do the work for you. And it doesn't matter what you know. It's about what you do. And so I want to make sure that it's attracting the right people, because I've had people join programs. I've had people come to workshops before that are like, well, this didn't work. Well, did you do the work? Did you try? How often? How long did you give it? Did you try once and fail and then say, I don't know it? I didn't do it. I had someone join a program of mine and be like, well, I already knew some of the stuff. You are going to know some of the stuff. You're a smart freaking human. But you got to be able to learn from different people. It's not about everything being brand new and having these big crazy ahas and waiting for that. It's about implementation. So spend time with people who motivate you. Spend time with people who get you excited. Spend time with people who light you up. Spend time with people who've done what you're wanting to do. Learn from those people, whoever it is. Find the right people. Don't just look for the clickbaity headline. Don't just look for the thing that makes a big promise about a result. I know you've been disappointed over and over again before. I know you've bought programs that you haven't got anything out of, and so you're nervous to go into another program. Fair, legit. But are you taking 100% personal responsibility over your experience? Are you taking 100% responsibility over what you got out of it? Or are you looking for a way to be angry at someone else because you didn't show up? Oof. I know this because I've lived it. And so I want you to start learning to take personal responsibility over 100. Even if things aren't your fault, how can you take personal responsibility over it? And if you took 100% responsibility over your life for the next year, even things that aren't your fault, even things that shouldn't have happened, even things that shouldn't, think of what your clientele would look like. Maybe it's not your fault that you're not busy right now. Maybe it's not your fault that clients have stopped coming. Maybe it's not your fault that the reason you're in the situation you're in. But you still have to take responsibility for how you move forward. I've been purchasing our courses for 10 years. Sandra, you've been around. Sandra's like legit OG. And so I want to be able to help you to build your clientele, take courageous, vulnerable, messy, immediate, imperfect action. Sandra's a case in point of this. We've been working closely one-on-one. I don't take a lot of one-on-one clients anymore. And she's been kicking ass. Victoria is another one of my students that's totally had transformed her, not only your life, not only your business, but your life, Victoria. Like, you were a totally different person than you were when I met you 4 years ago, I believe. We haven't even met in real life. And so I'm saying that because I don't want someone to come into a workshop with me, come into a court class with me, come into anything with me that thinks that just by showing up will help your chances, but showing up's not going to get you the results. Getting your hands dirty, going and doing the work, that's the important part. And I'm really, really excited to help you build your clientele, rebuild your clientele, and create financial stability for yourself, for your family, for your future, and to do your younger self proud. So that's all I'm going to leave you with today. I'm really pumped up, if you can tell. I'm really excited to be able to help people build their clienteles, rebuild their clienteles, and get out of your own way while doing it. Because once again, you will not impress me with what you know, you will impress me with what you do. And I have such amazing people in my community that I'm so proud of. You guys inspire me. I do not have everything all figured out. I'm maybe a little bit ahead of you in some of the things that I've done, but let's be real, nobody's got all their shit figured out. And so I don't want you to be under a false guise of thinking I've got my shit all together. I don't. But I'm willing to show up courageously, vulnerably, and take messy, immediate, imperfect action. And that is my secret sauce. And so if you're ready to do that, go ahead and put yes in the chat. Doesn't mean you have to sign up for my workshop, doesn't mean you have to take any of my programs, but this is why I show up live for this, because I do this for you. One of the mantras that I write down in my journal every single morning is, how bad do I want it? What am I willing to do for it? And this is for her, my younger self, and this is to help them avoid it, which is for you. And so I love all these yeses. Yes, yes, yes. You guys are amazing. I'm so freaking proud of the hard work that you're doing, the actions that you're taking, and the way that you're showing up. Nervous, afraid, vulnerable, courageously, and taking messy, medium, perfect action. Go out into the world and let's spread that, and let's see if everyone can start taking courageous leaps forward into the life, business, and relationships that they've always dreamed of. I love you guys. Have an amazing day. Stay weird, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast and for tuning into Business Breakfast and Bedhead. Like I said, I would love for you to join me live on these over on Instagram. So once again, just look up Dawn Bradley and let's connect. Shoot me a DM, send me a screenshot, tag me in your stories of listening to this or what you took away from this. Those comments, that feedback really makes my day and helps me know that these things are landing and that you want to hear more. I do these lives and I do this podcast for you to help you, and your feedback means the world to me. And if you enjoyed this episode, help me spread the love. Share it with a friend, a coworker, family member, or leave a review, and make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you next time. Until then, friend, stay weird.